Well, I am certainly happy with what is, and I'm eager for more. And in my world, things just keep getting better and better. And the people that I attract just get better and better. And the conversations we have just get more and more delicious. And it seems like in the past few years, I've been interacting with people around the subject of death. And it's something that happens to all of our physical bodies. And I don't have a personal attachment a lot of times to the death of which they're speaking to me about. So I'm able to stay in my place of connection to source. I work on being in that space of connected to source as often as I consciously think about it. But sudden death is like having a lottery win. You just get to check out. But some of the issues have been around lingering death and people who hang out in their bodies for a long time, sometimes years, sometimes months. I can look at them and see, well, they're doing great. Their body is getting ready to expire. And my advice to their loved ones or family members is generally think of them as happy, healthy, whole, and complete. And to look at everyone you see as happy, healthy, whole, and complete.
Or mind your own business.
Or mind your own business, exactly.
Because when you're looking at something that doesn't look happy or whole or complete, and you're trying to tell yourself that you do, how's that working out?
That doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you could look somewhere else.
Right. So in the past week or so, I call that internal terrorism. And we've had this event happen in our world where a group of people have decided to put a little terror out or to activate something, and lots of people have checked out. My original question is,
ask that one first.
How long do we hang out in our bodies? And for people who are...
Well, everything that we're talking about, no matter what the subject is, you have a balance of vibration about it. And your balance of vibration simply means the thoughts that you think about it. So sometimes you think thoughts about how much you love life. Sometimes you think thoughts about how you fear life. Sometimes you think thoughts about how much you appreciate that one and that one and that one. Sometimes you think thoughts about how much you don't appreciate that one and that one and that one. And all of those thoughts equal a mix of vibration that equals your general point of attraction. Now, you have a specific point of attraction, which means the way you feel in any moment is the way the things around you are responding to you. If you want to know what you're feeling, just look about how things are going, and how things are going are really evidence of how you're feeling in the moment. If you want to take a longer view at your experience, you can see what you've been doing generally. You see what we're getting at? And so when you take a subject of how long am I in my body, or how healthy is my body, what we're wanting you to try to contemplate a little bit is, what's the balance of my thoughts? We're talking about your broadcasting airtime. We're talking about what you're talking about. We're talking about the words that come out of your mouth. We're talking about the thoughts that you are formulating. And we're talking about the way that you feel. And so you said something at the beginning of your conversation with us about how you don't have anything personally involved sometimes with this, that it's something that's going on with someone else. But we want you to understand that this subject of your longevity or your joy while you are in your body is the most personal subject. And it's a subject that a lot of people think about. The reason that so many people broadcast to their own disadvantage is because of their observation of what's going on around the planet. And it's an interesting thing to us that when you put things into perspective, the well-being versus what you would consider to be the not well-being is minuscule. And yet, in your day and age,
we put a soundtrack to it.
With your ability to look all around the world and find a trouble spot and amplify it, as you say, with music and bring it and focus. So what happens is, in this environment, in this time, and in this space, you are, as individuals and as collective consciousness, working to your own disadvantage by finding something and focusing on it and terrorizing yourself unnaturally and unnecessarily with it, to try to figure out what's happening to someone else, first of all, it's not possible. You can never sort it out. But what it does to you when you focus upon it matters. So we would like to give a definition to what terrorism really is. Terrorism is me focusing in opposition to who I really am and what I really am focusing on. And you can call terrorism fear, you could call it panic, you could call it discouragement, you could call it disappointment, but it's focusing in opposition to what I desire. Now we know these words sound odd, maybe not to you because you're becoming odd too. But they sound odd in a world that wants you to be observant and wants you to be objective and wants you to weigh all the pros and the cons and the pluses and the minuses. But what it comes down to is guardedness and pushing against what you don't want will never get you what you do want. It will always just get you more of what you don't want. And if what's going on in this increase of what you are calling terrorism doesn't tell you that, then nothing in your experience ever will. The more you see what you do not want and the more you take action to try to stop that from happening, the more of it comes and comes and comes and comes and comes. Not because people are unreasonable, but because law of attraction is a very powerful thing. And
we
so
create what we defend against.
You create what you think about, whether you're defending against it or advocating it. You get what you think about, and your point of attraction is about what you think about. And most people think about what somebody else wants them to think about. You don't get a choice, for the most part, about whether CNN is going to please you or not, because it's not trying to please you. It's trying to get your attention. It wants you to think, but there's a very high probability that when you tune to that network, that you are going to see things that your inner being is not going to join you in a conversation about. And the longer that you focus there, the more you're going to activate a vibration that is not the same vibration of your source, and therefore you're going to introduce resistance, and therefore your average of vibration is going to be adjusted, and so is your lifespan. And so is the way you feel in your experience. In other words, everything is about that, you see. And so what it comes back to over and over again, and it's hard to hear because sometimes you say, well, I want to be informed. And we say, do you want to be informed or happy? And you say, I want to be happy and informed. And we say, well, if you want to be happy and informed, then get happy first. And then your source will help you be informed about things that will keep you happy. But if you say you want to be informed more than you want to be happy, then what you're saying is, I want to broadcast a vibration that might be interesting to me, but you're not asking for alignment with your source. And when you're not asking for alignment with your source, if you want to be more rational, if you want to be more reasonable, if you want to be more human than you do in aligned, that's perfectly all right. But then you have to understand the results of what you've got going on. There's just no getting around. These are the things that are always. You are a vibrational being, and what you think equals your vibration, and what you think and what your vibration is equals your point of attraction, and what your point of attraction is equals what comes to you. Now, most people have enough of a balance going on that what comes to them, in other words, it's one thing to feel fear about something, and it's another thing to get really up close to it. Esther used to notice, especially when she was driving so much, that the better she felt, the more that she could drive the roads of this nation and never even find anything of a terroristic nature in her experience. There was no road rage around her. There were no traffic accidents happening around her. It just wasn't part of her vibration, and so she was zigging and zagging. Even though on each and every one of those highways there were accidents every single day. But Esther wasn't rendezvousing with them because she was not a vibrational match to them. But it wouldn't take very much conversation about that before things that matched that conversation would start showing up, you see. And so that's the feeling that you're getting in that feeling of terrorism. It isn't the feeling that somebody's going to come and do to you what they've done to others that you're worried about. Is that in that moment you are terrorizing yourself by pinching yourself off from the well-being that would be there if you were not focused in a way that is pinching it off. And if you focus in a way that pinches it off enough, then the momentum of it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until those thoughts turn to things. And our question to all of you is, when someone else that you don't even know, when their thoughts that you don't even know that they're thinking, when their thoughts have turned into things that you don't want to live, why would you now turn your thoughts to the things that they have turned their thoughts to the things? In other words, Esther used to say to us, Abraham, but it's true. And we would say, Esther, truth happens, facts happen because somebody focused in a way that made them happen. And just because they've happened, just because they are someone's reality, doesn't mean that they have to be your reality. But as humans, you often think that because it exists as a reality, that it could come and get you. Someone else conjured a reality that they didn't want because they didn't know what they were doing with their thoughts, and they've created a reality, and now so many people want you to look at that reality, and as you look at that reality, it becomes part of your vibration until more and more begin to create the reality that they do not want. As humans, you have to be able to understand that that makes no sense. So we would say to Esther, just because it's true, just because someone's lived it, doesn't mean that it deserves your attention. And the thing that we would like you to begin to think about is that how it feels might well be the criteria about whether it deserves your attention, you see. And those people that you are labeling as terrorists, they know that they don't have the ability really to disrupt your lives in any really meaningful way. There are too many of you and too few of them. They cannot really, in actuality, turn those thoughts to things in any way that's going to be very significant to you. But they can terrorize you. They can get you to turn your thoughts to a place that you will disconnect from the well-being that is yours, and that's good enough for them. You do that to your children. You terrorize them with the things that you say too. In other words, the real terrorist is you.
Oh, absolutely.
We're just thinking about the book that our friend was worried about having written, because there are a lot of people that don't want you to call yourself a terrorist, but only you can terrify yourself, because only you can focus in a way that disallows the source within you to flow in this moment. And that's what terror is.
So lead by example.
Say again.
We all have to lead by example and just staying connected to our source.
You don't have to lead anybody. Just do what feels good to you.
Okay. Yeah, there's not a responsibility there.
You can't think for anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
You can't vibrate for anyone else. You can't attract for anyone else. But you are right about wanting to be a point of focus, that if someone is observing you, it's of benefit to them to observe you.
Mm-hmm.
That's what being an uplifter is. To be an uplifter, you're in tune with well-being. Mm-hmm. And when you're in tune with well-being and someone is observing you, then they have a better possibility of being in tune with well-being. Mm-hmm. But we're not wanting you to assign that responsibility to yourself, because when that condition is something that really matters to you, then their inability to tune to their own well-being will eventually get you down. So if you will just make it really personal, we've been finding a lot of words over the time. We've been talking about allowing or resisting. We've been talking about being in the vortex or out of the vortex. We've been talking about being in alignment or being out of alignment. Then we talk about clarity or confusion. In other words, we've been talking about this distinction or differentiation for a long time. So today, we could talk about terrified or love, well-being or terror. There's resistance and there's allowing. And there are all kinds of ways that you can describe it. But the words are not significant. The emotion is. And so if you're watching something and you're feeling yourself well up with joy and enthusiasm, mm-hmm. then by all means continue to participate in it. Mm-hmm. But if you're watching something and it's making you withdraw and recoil, or it's making you feel frightened, then that's your guidance system. That's your inner being letting you know that you're looking in a place that is not of benefit to you. And we want to get blunt with you. We want to say, isn't it obvious that if it doesn't feel good, it isn't of value to you? Don't you want to acquaint yourself with your guidance system and let your guidance system guide you?